My headset came unplugged. Now we're back with a new installment of Sunday Money. How y'all doing? This show today could go one of two ways. It could get completely off the rails, or it can be one of the best shows we've ever done. We got a lot of positive feedback last week from the Joey Logano podcast, and everybody enjoyed it. So I thought, who better to have on and to follow that act than two-time Busch Series champion and one-time Busch North champion, 1985, my dad, Randy LaJoie.
Morning.
Morning. Thanks for coming on.
Well, and put me in, Coach. I'm a fill-in guy.
Yeah, so obviously, as you can tell, this really is, no jokes aside, the Corey LaJoie podcast today, because my friend Daryl is on another vacation like he is every other week. And Lauren delivered a beautiful little baby, Poppy Elizabeth Gorman. She is awesome. Lauren's doing well. Well wishes to them. So we're all pumped up about that, and hopefully they can come back and join us on the show, because we've been a little bit dismantled for the past couple weeks. So you're the
dismantling guy.
You're the dismantled guy,
Okay.
And you are the bottom of the barrel that I had to scrape of my friends. I'm just kidding.
That's a nice barrel.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
So as probably the vast audience of our show doesn't realize that my dad was a pretty damn good race car driver as well. He won 3 championships in the NASCAR, I guess 2 in the National Series, what used to be Busch Grand National Series, now the Xfinity Series. And he won a Busch North Championship, which is now the Busch, like the K&N Pro Series, but it was actually, there was a separate Busch North and a Busch South back then, and they were both equally competitive. They were on the same platform. So, yeah, I'm glad to have you on. But first, let me do this read. This week is Bojangles week here at MRN as we head down to Darlington for the Bojangles Southern 500. Head to Bojangles for a Cajun filet biscuit with their new pimento cheese. For breakfast, lunch, dinner, stop at Bojangles. It's bow time, y'all. I have not had one of those Cajun filet biscuits with the pimento cheese on it. I hear it's really good. My mouth's watering just thinking about it. And then also, Hercules Tires is still giving away a free set of tires every month. Register to win to go HerculesTire.com/MRN to win that free set of tires. And contrary to what you might think, I looked Hercules Tires up last night. They're actually like good tires. Like you just think that since they give free tires away, they think that, they might be cheap tires. They are not. They're actually very nice tires with a cool logo.
Okay.
So
Off-road stuff, anything.
I'm done rambling.
Okay.
Let's get to the good stuff and give the people what they want. So since it's Darlington this week, on the way over here, me and you were talking about an old Buckshot Jones story. We're going to tie it in because Cole Custer is running the Aquafresh scheme that I'm sure makes your blood boil just as much as it does mine.
Gives me a headache.
Yeah. Why does it do that?
Because every day in the shower, I remember that. I mean, that was my crash test dummy years.
Buckshot Jones.
That's right, because he made me a living crash test dummy.
So, obviously, not everybody, but there was a run-in at Bristol, but was there something that led up to that before that Bristol where he tries to wreck you under yellow?
Yes, I mean, it was just that year, the year that, he was a dart without feathers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, boy, he had a race car, Ricky Pearson and the Pearson boys, B&R Motors. I mean, just way faster than the guy holding the wheel was.
Yeah.
And he just hit everything. And, I told him, I said, listen, kid, I said, don't hit me. I said, if you can pass me, but you ain't got to hit me.
Mm-hmm.
Well, here we are at Bristol, and you watch the scoreboard, and here's the 00. I'm running third, and I see the 00 coming up off the bottom of the scoreboard. Well, every time there's a caution, what happened? Buckshot wrecked somebody. Okay, well, every time he wrecked somebody, the crew was always on the pit road flipping him off. The guys that he wrecked.
Yeah.
Okay, well, about 15 to go, he gets to me, and he just drilled me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, you jackass.
But he didn't wreck you.
No,
Right.
you pushed me up the hill.
Yeah.
And I said, I told you. Don't ever. And it just happens, I got back to him, and I picked him up at the start-finish line.
And sent his ass.
Yeah, and it made him look like a gremlin.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, and the fans were going nuts halfway. Well, I'm riding around under caution, and the spotter's like, "You better look out. He's looking for you." So I'm come out at 2, and Robert Presley was in front of me. So I tried to hide alongside of him, and he wouldn't let me up. So I said, okay. So I backed off him a little bit, and we go into 3, and I hear Buckshot fire off. And he turns, and I gassed it up, and he misses me, and he drove straight into the fence.
Yeah.
And that facility, I've never heard noise like I heard that night.
Yeah, I told that story. We did a breakfast with Bruton at Bristol. I remember that story because I was it was 98, so I'd have been 7 years old. And I remember being carried out of there. We got police escorted out.
State cop golf cart.
Yeah, we got escorted out of there, and they kind of dropped us off at the end of the road, right? And they kind of like made us figure out how to. I don't remember all of that, but I do remember the place going nuts. They were throwing beer cans at you on the way out, and they were cussing at you because apparently you wrecked. Buckshot Jones, who for whatever reason people probably liked a little bit too much. He liked the gimmick, right? The old Buckshot.
That's right.
So now there's actually a video that somebody posted the clip of it on my Twitter maybe last week. So if you wanted to dig through that and find it, there's a pretty good clip. The guy just actually found that exchange that worked out pretty cool. So, but yeah, it's funny that it's come full circle because Casey, my little brother, was roommates with Cole Custer for 2 years. So when I saw Cole Custer have this Buckshot Jones scheme, it made my blood boil as much as I don't know when you saw it, but I'd sent out a tweet saying 7-year-old Corey wants to call up Mike Harmon and do a Randy LaJoie Fina scheme and just wreck that car like Russ Wheeler the first lap. And just out of spite. But then one of my favorite races to watch as a kid was at Darlington, and I think that was probably the moment. One of my other favorite stories. You were racing Jeff Burton.
He's still mad at me.
So Jeff Burton was in the 9 track gear car. Was that a Roush car?
Yes. Oh, they won every second race they were in.
Yeah. Jeff Burton was the man in that car, and so. I'll preface that story. So this is 96?
Yep.
So Jeff Burton's the man, right? Dad's in position. He's leading. Jeff Burton, I guess the track flip-flopped since then. So that was turn 3 and 4. So what was now 1 and 2, was then 3 and 4. So Jeff, you're leading, right? Coming to the checkered, going down the backstretch.
Got the white, I was leading.
Yeah. So you go down into 1, come out down the backstretch, and you're side by side with Jeff Burton. So Jeff rolls it into 3.
He ain't lifted yet.
He ain't lifted.
Yeah.
Well, you do the old stereotypical crossover move. Probably the best that I'm biased a little bit, but that you could possibly do in turn 1 and 2, or I guess now 3 and 4 Darlington, and he ended up beating this because he was the Cup guy. That was really before. But this big stink about, Cup guys can't run Xfinity and this, that, and the other. Like, there was Cup guys in Cup cars that would just smoke the field even worse than they do now. So that was a big deal for you to beat Jeff Burton that day.
It was huge. I mean, I didn't believe he was going to miss the corner, but he missed the corner. And I was like, thank you. And I went back to the throttle. I beat him back to the line.
Yeah.
And that was just, I mean, I had a flashback. I was there in 1985 at Darlington, my first ever Darlington race. And I chased Dale Sr., Jack Ingram, Harry Gant. I chased these guys. I mean, I finished, I think, top 10, but I learned a lot because I was following Jack Ingram, and he was a legend. I mean, he's a Hall of Fame. He's a legend. So I was like, okay, well, I wanted to pass. Here I am, a kid from up in New England, and I was like, okay, I moved south. I was like, I'm going to beat these guys.
Well, I wanted to touch on that. That was another topic. So, people don't know that back in the day, there was a big chasm between the Yankees and the Southerners, the rednecks, right, or the racers, what they consider themselves. So how much there was a story from when you were racing Orange County, and they said welcome to the South, right?
Yeah, Rick Mast after he stuck me in a fence.
So those of you who don't know, the LaJoie family comes from Connecticut, Norwalk, Connecticut. That's where Dad was born. That's where my grandpa still lives. And my grandpa he's in the New England Auto Racing Hall of Fame, as is Dad. And Pepe won 6? Pepe is French for grandpa. LaJoie, Pepe, get it? He won 6 Danbury championships.
Yeah.
He was more or less the one track jack at Danbury. and he raced more or less for a hobby, and he wanted to just run the junkyard and raise his kids, right? And
Danbury was a unique place. Everybody thinks that, he didn't want to leave. Well, he had a chance when the 47 car with that
Ron Bouchard,
Harry Gant first.
Okay.
They asked my dad. They asked Dad to run that car, and he didn't want to leave. And he liked his Sundays off. He enjoyed racing on Saturday nights, and he was making really good money.
Right.
I mean, it was amazing that Danbury, they raced for a percentage of the gate, and they had 8,000 people there.
Mm-hmm.
So on a 25-lap feature, he's making $3,500.
Yeah.
Saturday night. It's not a bad gig. So he went NASCAR racing. He went about 71, 72. Danbury pissed him off. He's like, okay, I'm going to build me a modified, NASCAR modified. So he got the rule book, built the modified, and he got waxed.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then he stuck around one night, and they were weighing cars and found out his car was 1,000 pounds heavier than everybody.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, that's it. Well, once his eyes got opened to getting beat, I mean, that's the only way you get better.
Well, we're nitpicking for context. We're nitpicking for ounces in the Cup car nowadays. And back in the early 70s, you didn't know that you were 1,000 pounds heavier than somebody else. So obviously that would be a pretty big disadvantage when you go to the short tracks up there around the Northeast. So, yeah. But when you came down south, what was the exception or the reception, I guess I should say, from the Southerner guys? Because you had to come down here you came down here with Bob Johnson, who was a well-known crew chief. What were some of the things that you fought to really get into the culture down here and to make a name for yourself?
When Bob, we were up north, and we would come down 3-4 times a year, and he was very well respected. He was a mechanic Hall of Fame, crew chief Hall of Fame, smart man, not much on looks, but just a wonderful, wonderful person, and built wonderful race cars. But since he had all the respect, I mean, my first time at Dover, he says, go down and talk to Harry Gant. Harry will help you get around here. And Harry says, okay, you run the bottom, you drive it all the way in, you lift. He says, you pick the throttle up, and out of both corners, there were telephone poles. So when you're in the middle of the corner, you really couldn't see out. So once you picked up that telephone pole, you aimed for it. And that worked wonderful. I mean, I won a couple of races before they concreted it. The year they concreted it, we went up there to test, and I drove straight into the wall. Come out of the corner.
Because they moved the telephone pole?
Wasn't there no more. I was like, what happened to it? So it really messed me up. But then they painted that stripe on the bottom of the wall because you couldn't tell the difference from the racetrack. Yeah, so they fixed that, I think, during the day while we were testing, because I wasn't the only one to hit the wall. But, Bob was very well respected. I did okay. Didn't run into that many people at the beginning because, you had to keep your nose clean. And coming from the North Series, when we raced in Canada, I got put up against the side of a couple trailers because I messed with those Canadian folks. You mess with a Canadian folk, John Paul Cabana, a legend up there, and then he did me wrong, and so I did him wrong.
Yeah.
Well when I come back in,
he had all of his friends there.
Jesus, there was a bunch of them. I think to half the county. So I realized real quick that if you better check the neighborhood you're in. And then we run real good at Rougemont. I think it was my second or third Busch race in the Frank Cece 34 car. Jimmy Spencer got out of it to go full-time cup racing. And I was going for the win at Orange County, and Rick Mass wrecked me. And I was mad.
Big Southern guy. I'm not exactly sure where he's
Ridgeway,
from.
Virginia.
Ridgeway, Virginia, right? Big south of the Mason-Dixon line, as you would like to say. So, yeah. So what did he say after he junked you?
Welcome to the South, Yankee.
Yeah, that's a hell
and I looked around, and his group was a whole lot bigger than my group.
Corn-fed boys.
And I was like, okay, thank you for I could have got a card instead. But, that was pretty much the only incident, that I got wrecked other than when Buckshot showed up.
Yeah. So you touched on it there, and I wanted to circle back to it. You said you wrecked several times. Every picture that I can recall, you either have a bumper flying off or a fender flying off, and your biggest thing to me growing up was don't hit shit. That was your number one saying to me. Didn't really understand why, because every single picture back then was in a heat race. You got the bumper hanging off. Usually you had the door. Whatever the case may be, excuse me. But, yeah, you'd always yell at me for wrecking stuff. And obviously it doesn't make your stuff faster when you hit stuff. But I never understood that because you would do the same thing, right? And
Cars are a little different then.
so that's what
Yeah.
I was trying to get at. Why? So when you got obviously to the Cup Series, and you did stints where I'll get to that in a second, why you didn't really pursue a Cup. That's a interesting story. But when you got to the point where you understood that when you have a right front fender hanging off, it's not beneficial to the car like it is. If you rip the right front fender off in
Hickory,
yeah. It's going to be different than ripping the right front off of Charlotte. You knew that, and as I started progressing up through the ranks, you'd yell at me more and more, and I still didn't get it until I actually had to do it and pay the price for it. But I wanted to talk about when you won 2 Busch Series championships. Your stock was really high. You finally got the opportunity to drive a good car, and you had some opportunities. You filled in for Ricky Craven at Hendricks, and you ran really well. Ran really well. There's a good story about you wrecking Earnhardt there. Just go ahead and talk about it, Charlotte.
Yep.
So tell that story because I think people would love to know how that transpired.
Okay, here we are, Charlotte. We were running good in the Budweiser car. That was a new 5x5, 5 inches off the ground,
Yeah.
a 5-inch rear spoiler.
Yeah. So all the people who want to get rid of the downforce, get rid of the spoiler, I think there was probably, 8 guys that finished on a lead lap in that race. So
Probably.
Be careful what you wish for.
Yeah. So, okay, we're racing and had a decent car. Well, every time we pitted, I lose 5 or 6 spots.
Mm-hmm.
And it was probably some on me.
Mm-hmm.
But I raced against the same guys. Senior, Schrader, Stolen Marlin.
All night long.
Ernie Irvin,
Mm-hmm.
all day. I mean, we're back and forth, and okay, I'll end up getting in front of all of them. Then we pit, and they all pass me back.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, 20 to go. I get to Earnhardt to pass him.
Yeah, pay windows open now.
Yeah, I guess. Well, he put it right on my door going into 3. And that rear end came around, and I lost it and spun around and pinned him against the wall. The left side of me was against the wall.
Yeah, so they ended
nose
up,
to nose.
People that are watching, they ended up nose to nose up against the fence. Dad's backwards, Earnhardt's right side in the fence, and they're done, right? Their day's over because they both wrecked. So now
he's only 10 feet from me.
You're looking
I'm looking at him. And
looking eye to eye.
Yeah, he's looking at me, and he throws his steering wheel. I was like, oh, he's mad. And, well, he gets out, and I couldn't get out because the left side was against the fence. So he comes over, took the window out, threw the window in.
Mm.
You all right? I said, yeah. What the fuck happened? I was like, we wrecked. And then the little Australian guy worked for the Speedway. Sure, what the heck was whatever his name was. Well, wonderful man. He said, Dale, he's got a camera.
Yeah, he had a in-car camera.
He says, okay, get out. So that was it. So, I mean, I wrecked the senior and I had a couple people call and say, hey, you need a safe house to stay in? Because I was living in Kannapolis at the time.
Oh, damn.
So he's like, well, you might need a safe house to go to us. Nah, I'll be okay.
Yeah, I mean, Kannapolis, if you don't know, that's where Dale Jr. and Dale Sr. I mean, there's a statue of Dale Earnhardt in downtown Kannapolis. You don't wreck Dale Earnhardt in Kannapolis especially. And he was living there. We were living there. I was probably, 5 at the time. I didn't know what was going on, but all I know is people were really mad that Dad wrecked Dale Earnhardt. Let's cut to a break right quick, and we're going to come back with a couple more stories.
Here's your chance to win a set of your very own Hercules tires. Go to HerculesTires.com/MRN. Simply register, and each month we'll give away 1 set of tires. Hercules Tires has the value, selection, and industry-leading mileage coverage to get you wherever you need to go, no matter where the road takes you. Register now for your chance to win a set of Hercules tires at HerculesTires.com/MRN. Hercules Tires. Ride on our street.
This is Sarah's O'Reilly Auto Parts story.
Driving cross-country with 2 young children is ambitious, to say the least. Then our check engine light came on. We pulled into O'Reilly Auto Parts and they tested it. Turned out it was a faulty sensor. They referred us to a great mechanic just down the street, and we were back on the road in no time.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
And we're back. So we touched on some good old stories. I wanted to get into some personal stories because you've obviously been with me since I came out of the womb, since you are my dad. So you've been there for at least 2 of, I can remember, my most embarrassing stories in my life. Number one being, this one was 100% your doing as well. We were at Clint Boyer's dirt track behind his house. Remember that?
Oh, yeah, top of the hill, yeah.
Yep. So Clint Boyer had this dirt track, and they would have these go-kart races on whatever every once a month. And we left. You picked me up from baseball practice, so I was probably 14 or 15, and I had my sweatpants on, Northwest Cabarrus sweatpants, right? So we head up there to Hickory or Winston or wherever
Winston
the hell.
somewhere. Yep.
Winston. And we're there talking, and they had a hell of a turnout for these things, probably 400 or 500 people, right? They had the grandstands and the whole nine. We're sitting there talking, and we're directly in front of these grandstands with chock full of people, probably 100. Felt like 1,000. And I'm sitting there talking, and my arms are crossed, and all of a sudden, I forgot who I was talking to, but all of a sudden, I'm like, man, it's getting a little chilly in here. I look down, my damn stinger is exposed. Lord knows how long it was out. You had the most swift pants job I've ever seen. I didn't even feel my pants come off my ass. You shanked me, and my dingling was exposed in front of these 100 people. So I wanted to touch on that. And what were you just trying to embarrass me in front of all these people?
No, it wasn't my first thought. It was, I said, we were sitting there, and somebody says, look at Corey. I said, he just come out of baseball practice. I says, his freaking pants are ready to fall off.
Oh, yeah.
I says, well, you know what? I'm going to go help him.
He finished them off.
And I got him to your ankles, and I walked down the hill and turned around, and they were still on your ankles. I was like, what the heck?
I literally did not feel my pants down until I felt like it was 10 degrees cooler outside.
That was a quiet ride home.
Yeah, I was not happy about that. Super embarrassed. Delana and Kevin were there. They were making fun of me. Kevin still talks about that. Hey, man, remember when your dad pants you in front of all those people? Yeah, I do.
So I got one coming. Great.
Yeah, no thanks. And then the second one, I wanted your point of view because we did this story last week when I drove Logano's Allison Legacy car. You worked a deal out with Tom, Joey's dad, to let me practice this last Allison Legacy car. I was running Bandoleros at the time. This is the natural next step. We go to Hickory, run around, going halfway decent. It starts sprinkling. We're going to make one more run, right? That last run, come off turn 4, completely waylay the inside fence. What were you thinking at that point in time?
It wasn't nice. Like, are you kidding me? Because, like I said, it was raining. We knew it was raining.
I was probably 12 maybe. So
maybe
13 maybe.
Yeah. And you haven't lifted yet.
Mm-hmm.
And I was okay. I'm like, yeah. And I'm standing down in the middle of turns 3 and 4 watching. And you were getting higher and faster and higher and faster. And I was like, oh, boy, the bottom's dry, and he's up in the wet. Well, then you lift it after you hit the fence.
Mm-hmm.
And now there was 3 or 4 cars there testing, and you crashed right at their motorhome.
Yeah, that's.
And I was like, okay, the mom, which was dead against it, she didn't want Tom to let nobody have anything.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he had 2 legacy cars. Yeah, take one, go ahead. You just go use it. Okay. Well, we put your seat in it, and thank God for that. Because, and I was like, are you kidding me? And I said, okay, now there's no wreckers around. I was like, we have to take this thing back to the shop. I said, guys want to continue testing. I was like, let's get this thing loaded up and get the heck out of here. And I think I still got parts on order to fix it.
Yeah, that's what I said. So, and another Hickory story that sucks for me, another learning experience. We go to Hickory, and you line up this late model ride for me. It was my first time in a late model, and we were blazing fast for the Easter Bunny 300 or whatever they used to call it. And I was running these Pro Challenge cars at the time, was really successful, won a bunch of races. So I was hot shit, right? I thought I was somebody. We go to Hickory, and the test day, we were in the top 3 in every single practice. And I'm like, oh, I didn't know what I didn't know, right? So race day comes around, we were going to make us a mock run. Well, those tires on those super late models are super hairy for the first couple laps, so you get the glaze knocked off of them, right? You really got to work them in because they're cold and they don't grip. I didn't know any of this. Mock run, right? I got the damn gloves pulled down. I'm ready to show everybody what I got. I go down to turn 1, lock the left front tire up, and completely destroy this thing. Right front tire up into the windshield. Obviously put an end to our day. and I don't know, I might have been 15 or 16, and I thought I was somebody, right? So I come in there, and my tail's between my legs, and your face is red. There's not even a red on the screen that I can compare it to. It's just blood beat red, right? Because obviously now we're talking about more expensive cars, way more of an invoice to you to fix this shit that I just tore up. So I'm out, right, and I'm trying to kind of help, and the whole time you're calling me Michael fucking Schumacher. Remember that?
Oh yeah.
You were so mad. And I remember I changed, right, and I got my head down, tail between my legs, and the whole time you got a Sawzall just cutting all the bent shit off of it. And the whole time, oh, there he is, Michael fucking Schumacher, everybody. So there wasn't really a learning experience about that besides be careful on those new tires. And that was a large piece of humble pie I ate that day. But the older I get, the more I appreciate, and here's the thing, right? You could tell me one thing when I was growing up, and I'd be like, yeah, right, you don't know what you're talking about. And then Todd Bodine or somebody like that could come up and tell me the exact same thing. I'm like, yeah, right, Todd, that's a good point. I never thought about that, right? And you would actually take it to consideration. The older I get, man, like, I don't want to tell you you're right. Most of the time you're right with the odd way that you
I still hear my dad in my voice when I was a kid. So the older I get, the smarter he was.
Yeah, it's funny how that works. Yeah. So you started more or less my career because you stuck me in a go-kart, and we had a little dirt track out behind your seat shop. And we'd run around, and you'd teach me gas is on the right, brakes on the left, right turn left, the whole nine. And then I got decent enough to where I can race you and all your buddies, right? I wasn't racing against 8-year-old kids. I was racing against 38-year-old men that race for a living. So I feel like that actually helped me cut my teeth when I was a little kid just to learn racecraft, because I'm not racing against kids who are also trying to learn. I'm racing against people who do it for a living. So who are some of the guys out behind the shop beside, Tim Fido, who spots for Kevin Harvick now, was Dad's teammate at the time in the Busch Series.
Jack Sprague always come over.
Yeah, Ron Hornaday was over there.
Yeah, Freddie Query come over a few times. So, I mean, and we always put you in the back because, I mean, okay, we might have been a little heavier than you.
Right.
And so I said, okay, just start in the back. And then you would get the lead and would throw the checkered. Mm-hmm. And so, okay, get in the back again. Well, most of the time I had to work on stuff.
Yeah.
But, you did learn a lot just by, it wasn't a computer game. It was real life action.
Right. So tell the people a story. This kind of ties back into the Hendrick story. So it was a dirt track. You had the water truck, the whole nine, and there was a lot of maintenance, obviously, for the people who know anything about a dirt track. You had to prep the dirt. You had to make it smooth and the whole nine, or else it just got really bad and you couldn't race on it. So how did what ended up being the field filler fairgrounds end up getting paved?
They called me up. I was at Darlington. They said, hey, Ricky Craven's out. Need a relief driver. You want to drive? Yeah, put me in.
Yeah.
Put my seat in. I think it was Saturday morning, and we had all kinds of issues. What a terrible day. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm a Cup guy now, and I've done some stuff, and I'm driving a Budweiser car, and
spun out 2-3 times.
Oh, at least, and it wasn't good. And then we found out, the car was a little screwed up, but that didn't do me any good.
Mm-hmm.
So I get a check in the mail, and I open it up, and your mom looks at it, and she goes, "Wow," and I was like, "What's that?" She goes, "Look." I was like, "Nah, that's wrong." I said, "I only get a percentage of that." So I brought it back to the lady in the office.
You thought it was the whole purse check.
Correct. Because that was a win check for if you won a Grand National race.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it was damn near $30,000.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow. I was like, so I walked back in the office. I said, hey, I'm sorry. I said, but I just get a percentage of this. And they said, that is your percentage. And I was like, what am I going to do with this money? I'm going to pave the go-kart track.
Yeah, make it way easier. So it wasn't 2 days later the asphalt truck showed up and it was paved. And that's where my asphalt career started. So then we got to doing that and got older and everybody kind of disbanded. We'd still run around in that go-kart track, but that was when we started running Bandoleros quite often, then just kind of the natural progression. And, contrary to what everybody might think, you didn't, like, the magnifying glass was on me just like it is everybody else growing up, whether it was Dale Jr. or, Chase Elliott or Ryan Blaney, these guys that people assume that since their dad is a race car driver. They're going to have the best people and the best cars working to drive, right? I can recall not the only car that we had brand new only made it 12 laps because we broke a left rear hub at Rockingham, which is another story for another day. Why did you have? You probably just got lucky because you didn't want to spend any money, but it ended up working out in the end. How did you have the forethinking of not getting the best people to surround me, not getting, the brand new and
money?
latest?
I mean, it was just money. I mean, because being a Busch guy, Cup guys made 10 times the money the Busch guys does.
Right.
And which I've never chased a nickel.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if they come, they come. If they don't,
Right.
If we had enough, we had enough.
Yeah.
Well, I look at Cup guys with their kids. You know, it aggravates me now because, you could have raced 50 times a year. You
Mhm.
raced 10.
Right.
Everybody else is running 50 to 100 times a year that were in your age bracket.
Mhm.
Well, that's because their dad was a Cup driver.
Yeah.
So, but also, okay, guy give me a deal gave us a late model car. Yeah, it's a good car. Okay, what can possibly go wrong? Well, the thing was a 52 lasagna.
You weren't there to pick it up.
Yeah.
I was. So Dad's like, yeah, go down to this guy's shop and come up and pick up his late model. So we go to this guy's shop. It's like a U-Haul storage facility. It's on a rack. We had to get a forklift to get this hunk of shit down. And we get this car down. There was like a cat's nest in the thing, like rats and stuff are living in it. I'm telling you, it was terrible. It was a car.
Yeah.
It was my first late model, right? Meanwhile, you got guys showing up with stackers and brand new cars and 3 people full time on a late model team. So we get this car back, and
one of the things on that late model was old Glenn Bopp.
Yeah, Glenn Bopp was good. He passed away since then. He taught me a lot.
Yes, he did. And Glenn Bopp, if you look him up, he's from, I think, Illinois, Missouri, up there somewhere. Yeah. And built his own cars, very sharp, one great fabricator. Taught you a lot, seemed like, because you didn't get some of your fabricating skills from me.
Absolutely not.
But Glenn was a smart man. Mm-hmm. And he did the best he can with what we had.
Yeah, so it was almost the complete opposite of what you'd expect with somebody who is in racing. In just the regards of, granted, he had a nice shop that he built that the Busch team ran out of, that we ran out of. We had the tools and the fabrication stuff, but
the equipment wasn't.
No. You just wouldn't buy me nice shit. And the first race car that we did build brand new, it's just a long story. I don't really want to touch on it, but I want to tell a story because this is probably the watershed moment in my career where I really jumped in with both feet and wanted to be a race car driver. So the first car, like I said, that Dad ever built me or allowed me to build with new stuff, I was 16 years old or 17 years old, and we go get a brand new Levitt chassis, which Levitt at the time was the Heat. We get pretty much brand new stuff. We get rear end and the whole nine, right? Rebuilt motor. This thing's going to be throw down. I'm pumped up, right? So we spend all winter long, me and Steve-O, a buddy of mine, a high school buddy, we just worked on this thing. That's all we did. We just worked on a slate model. Drilled every hole, drilled every bolt, cut it down. I mean, the thing was like immaculate. So we go to Rockingham, was going to be the first race for this thing. We go to test. It's you, me, Todd Bodine was there. Maybe somebody else. So we're just going to go shake this thing down and see what it's got.
Arca cars were there also.
Arca cars were there. And we were probably the only late model. So we go and we make one run. And the thing, I'm running at 80% because this is the biggest track I've been on in my life. I'm wide-eyed and white-knuckled just trying to figure out what's what. So I'm zipping around there, come in, no leaks, right? It's not dragging the ground, drives pretty good. Todd Bodine, hey, do that. Yeah, sure, Todd, great. Go back out there. Okay, I'm going to see what this sucker's got. Come out of the pits, right, 3 and 4, and you're almost wide open there in a late model. You were wide open. So I'd hit turn 1 wide open, and the thing lands. And next thing I know, I'm backwards in the fence, left side, driver's side, into the wall. Quick as, snap of the fingers, I'm completely destroyed. I'm like, oh, shit, for one, I'm like trying to figure out what's what, Tweety Bird's flying around. Yeah. So the thing, I'm devastated, right? Because I get out of the car, ambulance shows up, and there's not one tire on this damn thing touching the ground. The thing's so twisted up. So I get in the back of ambulance. I'm just like, okay, well, there's the end of my driving career. This is it, right? Like, the old man's not going to buy me another car. And that's it for me. I'll do something else, whether I weld seats or play baseball or whatever. And I'm in that ambulance ride, and we get all the way down. We go down the back stretch. We go through 3 and 4, and I look out the back window of the ambulance. I'm like, oh, stop right there. So I get out, and the left rear hub broke. All 5 studs came off this thing, and we're still attached to the wheel. That's why I wrecked, because the left rear hub broke from all that load at Rockingham and completely destroyed this car. We had to actually borrow the rollback from the racetrack
Get it home.
to get this thing home. So I'm trying to make this long story short. So Eddie Sharp was there with an ARCA car. Hey, man, called Dad next couple of days. Hey, that late model was fast. Hope the kid's all right. Obviously, the race is here in 3 weeks. I've got the sister car. I've got the sister chassis to the car you just built up in my shop. Just send the kid over and see if he wants to, help build this thing. We'll go to the race. So Dad, Eddie Sharp, go up there, Eddie Sharp's shop and see what he's got. Right? No details whatsoever. So I had enough credits in high school. I got out early, zipped it up to Denver, not Colorado, North Carolina. It was about a 45-minute drive one way. Drive to his shop, and it's a bare chassis, right? What me and Steve-O took 3 months to build over the off season, I needed to figure out how to build it in 3 weeks. Eddie says, I got this. I got all the stuff to bolt it on. Don't have the people. Don't really have the initiative. But if you want to do it, right here it is for you. Oh, great, right? So I drive home that night. Don't really work. I didn't work on it because I was like, there's no possible way.
That's what you said. There's no way I'm going to do it.
Hang on. I'll get to your response here in a second. Because so I get home, right, and I'm I'm getting ready to walk upstairs, and Dad's sitting on the couch with it, not even looking at me, right, flipping through TV channels. What did Eddie Sharp say? I'm like, yeah, he said we can use the car, but it's a bare chassis. There's zero chance. There's no chance in hell that this car can be built in time to go to the race. And he didn't even look at me. And he said, well, do you want to fucking drive or not? Nothing else. And that's your motivation tool for me, because you just know the buttons to push to more or less challenge me to do it. And of course I wanted to drive, right? And he knew that was my only opportunity to race that race, or to race anything there going forward. So I laid in bed that night, right? Stared at the ceiling. I'm like, well, hell yeah, I want to race. This is what I want to do. And I'm not going to just let this little hiccup. I'm going to, if we don't get the car built in time, we don't get in time, but it's not going to be because I didn't want to do it. So after I go to school, get out every day, drive straight to Denver, North Carolina, 45 minutes one way, work on it till about 11 midnight, drive back for every day for 3 weeks. Drove up to Eddie Sharp's house, shop to build this car. Granted, Eddie kicked in some people, and Patrick Donahue, crew chiefs for Greg Alding now, helped out, and he was a crew chief on the thing, and we thrashed on this thing, and we built a nice car, pulled it down and all that, and we ended up qualifying third for the race. And the moral of the story is we won the race. That was the watershed moment in my career where I was like, okay, you can do this, because at that point in time,
hard work pays off.
I hadn't won a late model race. You kept saying to me, I just don't think you can handle 8 cylinders. That was what's your favorite thing to say. Well, screw you. I just handled 8 cylinders, the biggest track I've ever been to. Ended up winning at Rockingham 3 times. So that was a lot of confidence building for me, in just the sense of, the hard work does pay off, and you also have talent that can carry over to a bigger car. That proved that to me, and your unique way of motivating me was what pushed me to do that. Because if it wasn't, I'm telling you, if it wasn't for you saying that, laying on the couch that night, I wouldn't be where I'm at. And you might not know that, but that was the deciding factor in the watershed moment for me. So we'll talk some more about that after the break.
O'Reilly.
This is Derek's O'Reilly Auto Parts story.
After the 3rd time jump-starting my car, I finally realized my battery was dying. So I stopped by O'Reilly to have it checked. They tested it right there in the parking lot. It was bad, real bad. But they helped me find the right battery for my car and even installed it for free. Now my car starts like new.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Here's your chance to win a set of your very own Hercules tires. Go to HerculesTires.com/MRN. Simply register, and each month we'll give away one set of tires. Hercules Tires has the value, selection, and industry-leading mileage coverage to get you wherever you need to go, no matter where the road takes you. Register now for your chance to win a set of Hercules tires at HerculesTires.com/MRN. Hercules Tires. Ride on our street.
And we're back. So we talked about my two embarrassing moments, and you are not one for motivational or complimentary words.
My presentation. Yeah.
Your presentation and your flexion is usually not right, but that's what people appreciate, your candor, right? And people know that what you say usually doesn't come through a filter. It usually just whatever dings top of your head is coming out your mouth.
It's getting better.
So, we talked about my embarrassing moments. What were some moments where you were necessarily proud of me or proud of yourself for seeing something you did through my life?
Well, I mean, that Rockingham race, to see what you did for 3 weeks was awesome. I mean, that was the defining moment. I was okay, he gets it. He wants to do this. Another time was you run the first time ever in a modified in Atlanta. I had a hip replaced. I was on a cane. Go down there, get up in a suite.
Hang on, let me preface this a little more. So I fell asleep driving about a month and a half prior to that race that you're about to talk about. I fell asleep driving from Birkdale, where my ex-girlfriend at the time was living, driving back home. I fell asleep, went off the side of the road, tried to kill myself, launched over a driveway culvert, hit a tree, fractured my pelvis, concussion, the whole nine, right? So I got really lucky there, and I was still in pretty bad shape, pretty beat up when we go down to Atlanta for my first ever modified race.
And we're up in a suite up there. Got into one of the suites. Ed Clark gave us a suite, and Mike Joy was in there. He come in, and they just got done cup qualifying, and he rolled over, and we're sitting there watching, and he's kind of calling the event. And you win the thing. You beat Tim Brown, who's a legend, in his own mind.
Mm-hmm.
But,
yeah, Madhouse champ.
So it was awesome. He tried pounding you out of the way. It was cool because you got the checker flag, you waved it, and you put it right in his face. And I was like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah, that was a little spiteful. I probably could have got my ass beat. Little 18-year-old me.
You would run faster than him.
Yeah, I could run faster away from him. But so I won the race, did some donuts, and Tim Brown was still not happy, and he kind of pulled up, and we were left side to left side, and I had the checkered flag, and I rolled it up and was like, ha, ha, ha. I pointed at him and then did a burnout away. Yeah, that's what 18-year-olds probably do. I wouldn't do that now, but
that was proud moments. And then I mean, for the first, there was 1 year there with the Cup cars, your first ever year there, you were like the first caution for 5 races in a row.
Yeah, it was brutal.
Yeah, and people would call me like, what the? I was like, oh, man, But then again, I've driven junk cars,
mm-hmm.
and you always try to make a junk car be a good car.
Yeah.
And it gets you in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you were doing. I mean, and kind of still are doing. But it's totally different. Racing has come anywhere from 04 to 06, I want to say racing's changed. And I helped Harvick in the 06. He won the Busch Championship.
Yeah, the Coast Guard number 21 car. He was doing double duty, but when we would not race at the same venue, whether the Busch cars would be at Gateway and the Cup cars would be somewhere else, Dad would always fill in for Harvick and get his stuff close in practice.
And qualify. And it was amazing because I was also driving a guy's car out of Oklahoma. He bought a couple old Michael Waltrip's cars. Well, the 21 car was just always good. I mean, they had a great team. I mean, that team of guys, they're scattered all over the garage area now.
Mm-hmm.
But that team was simply amazing. And we were flying to Kentucky, and the engineer and the crew chief were talking about shock travels. And I was like, what do you mean? The place is bumpy. You run 200 miles an hour. You can tell me, the shock travel? They said, absolutely. I said, I'll buy y'all dinner if we're within 1/4 of an inch. They're like, let's make it 1/8 of an inch. Well, sure enough, they were within 1/8 of an inch, and I bought them dinner. And that's when I knew, because I would go back to the other guy's car from Oklahoma. They didn't know. They didn't have a tape measure to measure shock travel.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, this is, these guys are in a totally different league.
Well, and when you jump in that 21 car, you were always top 5 on the
Oh,
sheet.
I was on the top 3.
And you didn't forget how to drive when you drove this cat's car from Oklahoma,
And he
or
was a Champions Provisional, get in.
or you drove anybody else's car and you were bottom of the sheet, right? Your driving talent and your driving ability were the same when you were third on the sheet or first on the sheet, and when you qualified that thing on the pole several times, or when you were had to make it on the Champions Provisional, right? So people that don't understand that was in 2006. Now, how much more is that prevalent in 2019?
Yeah,
so
that's when I knew. When 2006, it said, okay, my eyes got open and said, if you're not with a good team that has everything, because these guys in Oklahoma didn't have they had a travel toolbox.
Mm.
And those RCR guys, they had a big toolbox.
Oh, yeah. They had a machine gun and a knife fight. So, but yeah, that's a whole nother dynamic racing that we don't have time for today. But when people, because I have obviously older fans that ask me every weekend, and what's your dad been up to? Hey, what's Randy been up to? Well, obviously I know what you've been up to, but tell the people listening what you've been up to. But just I wanted to touch on, tomorrow is your birthday, and tomorrow, leaving this afternoon after this podcast, you will be driving to Nebraska. Why the hell would you be doing that, especially on your birthday?
Because there's a big Race Saver Nationals out there, and there's 200 sprint cars, and the gentleman French Grimes asked me to come out there and do the drivers' meetings and look at cars, and I know enough now of what not to do.
Mm-hmm.
And whether it's a seatbelt issue, a seat issue, I've kind of put myself towards the safety end of it, because at the end of the day, it's always going to be dangerous. We have a wonderful product, but you know what? I mean, we have to go plant seeds. I have to go plant seeds for the company to survive.
Well, so people who don't know, Dad's company that he started, what year? 98?
95, maybe.
95.
96.
So it's called the Joy of Seating. Little play on words there. Get it? It's a custom designed aluminum race seat that whatever you have that has 4 wheels or even 3 sometimes.
Airplanes, boats,
everything in between. We put an aluminum seat in, monster trucks, you name it. If you want a custom designed race seat in a custom particular discipline of a car, we got it. So, but Dad, your passion for these guys to keep short trackers safe, whether or not they're in a Joy of Seating seat or any other competitor's seat, you just don't want to see people get hurt. So you spend your time on most weekends throughout the year driving these dirt tracks, trying to educate people on how to be safe, whether it be belt mounts or how to mount a seat.
Hardest thing, education. All the teachers, 2 thumbs up, because education's the hardest thing I've ever done.
Mm-hmm.
Because they look at you different. And I think the biggest compliment I had was Steve Kirky. He's a large guy in the seat industry out of Canada. He says, Randy, he goes, I want to thank you. I mean, he has a house in a couple different islands, so he does okay.
Yeah.
He goes, every time you go somewhere, we get a lot of seat sales because you educate the people. And we're a high-end seat company. I mean,
Joy of Seating is not Kirky.
Correct. So we're a very high-end, not a very high-end, but we're more expensive than everybody else because our process is totally different.
Mm-hmm.
And he thanks me. I'm his best sales guy.
Right. So you go there, right? People have a $300 seat they can buy on jegs.com or some of these other part stores, right? I need a 15-inch seat, so let me just call up and order this part number, right? That's not the process that we go through. We custom measure somebody's body, right? Because Dad's body, he's had a couple extra cheeseburgers than mine, so I can't fit in his seat. I'd be swimming around in it. So the process is the same thing when we do a seat, right? We custom design the seat to the driver to make sure he's fully safe. And in the sense of, in layman's terms, we are the Cadillac of racing seats, and there's the Kias of the racing seats as well.
Prius.
The Prius,
yeah.
Well, yeah. So, but that's obviously a passion of Dad's. I'm in the middle of my own career, so I spend pretty much 3 or 4 days a week at the shop doing my own little projects, but I pitch in when I can. So that's what you've been doing. You've been trying to keep short trackers safe.
It's been cool. I mean, I've been to over 150 racetracks, and usually every time I go somewhere, I have more people in my phone than when I left.
Yeah.
And the racing people are so darn cool. I mean, I remember quick story where I was we went to Eldor, left Eldor, went to Danny Lasowski's for a golf tournament.
Yeah.
And Clinton Boyer was there.
Yeah.
And after the golf tournament, Gary Selzy was there.
Yeah, so you had your motorhome there.
Yes, motorhome was there, parked outside, beautiful weather, all the windows open. Well, we had a heck of a golf tournament. And before we went to the golf tournament, Danny Lasowski wanted Gary Selzy to make this dish that Californian, Mexicans, whatever.
So Danny Lasowski, obviously, if you don't know anything about racing, you probably won't know who Danny Lasowski is.
Sprint car guy.
Sprint car guy.
Champion.
Gary Selzy's a drag racing guy.
Champion.
So continue.
So Danny wanted Gary to make this stuff that he makes. So we were sitting by the fire. We made a list. First thing in the morning, we're going to Piggly Wiggly in nowhere, Missouri. Well, we walk in there, and there was some kind of commotion, and everybody had a list of what to get. So I went and got my list. Well, we congregated in the middle of the store, and we needed some beans. And in the bean aisle, there was a guy, 350 pounds, bib overalls.
Big guy.
Passed out. Done. People are over him, shocking him, trying to get him to come back.
Oh, so this guy's having a heart attack.
Oh, yeah. Well, he had one, and they're trying to get him back. Well, that didn't bother old Gary Selzy. The beans were right behind the guy.
Gotta go.
Stepped over him, throwing the beans out over the guy getting zapped. And I was like, wow, this is cool. Well, and then later in the evening.
Let's hope that guy. Well wishes to that guy. Hopefully he made it.
A prayer. That's right. Well, after the golf tournament, we're back at the fire pit. Hey, we got some explosives. We're going to go. I said, well, it's 3 a.m.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
I'm done. I said, I'm going to bed. So me and the guys, we go to bed. Well, all of a sudden, the explosives were getting closer. I was like, what the heck's going on? So I'm looking out the window. Well, Clint is like a little 6-year-old kid, and he's got one in his hand. He goes, hey, what if we put one under here? So I look out the window. I said, Clint, don't do that.
Meaning he was going to put one underneath the motorhome.
Motorhome, yeah. And I said, you don't want to do that. And he looked up at me, and he looked like he got his hands were in a cookie jar.
Yeah.
Oh, and he took off running. I said, oh, man, we had every time you go somewhere, it's usually a good time.
Yep. So Clint Boyer tried to blow up your motorhome. That does not surprise me for a second. And then, so the last thing I want to touch on, you had several opportunities to drive a cup car in the late 90s when you were the Busch guy, right? You were more or less a hot commodity to drive somebody's cup car. And I remember, from my point of view, we were riding somewhere, and you had the opportunity to drive the Nation's Rent car. Well, which one was it?
Jim Smith, the 7. Michael Waltrip was going out.
Yep. So this might have been late 90s, early 2000. What year was it?
Yeah, right there, 2000, I think.
So that was a pretty decent ride, right? And we're riding somewhere, and you asked us, plain and simple. I was 9 or 10, and Casey, my brother, was 6. And you're like, hey, do you think I can go? Do you think I should go cup racing? I don't know why the hell you would ask us, because we don't know any of the factors that go into deciding whether or not what you should do for your career. But you did. All right, we're riding this little souped-up Chevy Silverado truck that you always drove us around in, and should I go cup racing? And so we asked, well, why, right? And, well, I'm going to be gone a lot more, but I'm going to make a lot of money. And my brother, 6 years old, asked, well, don't you have enough money now? And then ultimately you didn't take the deal. So obviously,
said, why do you need more?
Why do you need more? Right? Which, hindsight, you probably should have done it. But why? So there's obviously more context to that story than what I remember being 9 years old. What was the full context of that story, or other opportunities like that?
Well, that was a great opportunity. Michael was going to DEI. We just got formed. Jim Smith had a great race team. And I asked you, and you said, well, Bobby Kennedy was there, Michael Suter. I mean, we knew the whole bunch of the guys. And you're like, oh, I know all those guys. I know all those crew guys. Those guys are cool. And you said, well, we'll be able to do our motorhome trip. We'll be able to do our go-karts. I was like, no, none of that's going to be all gone, because I'm going to be around.
Right. We used to race our go-karts on Sunday.
Yep.
That was our day, right? Come back, and we'd sit there and have fun and have lunch and go to church and do our go-karts. That was our Sunday thing.
Yep. And so you're like, well, I'll think about it. So when I asked Casey, I said, Casey, what do you think? He says, why do you want to do it? I said, 8-10 times the amount of money. I could make a lot of money. He goes, well, don't you make a lot of money now? And yeah, okay. I made more than I did when I was working back home in the junkyard. And I was like, well, yeah. And he says, why do you need more? And that was it. Why do you need more? That still sticks in my head. And today, it's like, okay, you got more headaches, which if I would have did that, that means the guy that went to jail, that was my accountant that stole from us, he would have stole a lot more.
He'd have got way more rich.
Yeah. So, okay, it's why do you need more? And I didn't.
Yeah.
And life in the Busch Series was fun.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the group of guys we had there, Elton Sawyer, Timmy Feederwood, The Onion, Elton Sawyer.
Dale Jr. came through there.
Chad Little. I mean, Dale Jr. I mean, Lil Lee, he was, Kensif, all those guys. I got a great relationship. But when I got there, Jack Ingram, Sam Ard, Larry Pearson, I mean, those guys were insanely talented.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got crossed over, and you're going with the truck guys, and you meet Hornaday. And, I tell Hornaday, 1986, when I won the 1985 Busch North title, we had a big party for Gatorade, and he was the out west guy. Well, he had, white hair and green teeth. Well, now he's got green hair and white teeth. So I was like, Hornaday, what happened?
It's the only thing's changed. Yep. So that was good stuff. Hope y'all enjoyed it. Thanks for coming on, Pop.
No problem.
You'll be driving 18 hours to Nebraska, as you can probably listen to this back in the truck. So tweet at us, Sunday Money. Give us some feedback. Give us reviews. Give us a 5-star rating, and we'll talk to y'all next week. Hopefully all my friends are back.